So this leads us to special resources that we can use to get more information or to automate getting the information in the internet footprint. Okay, so these are these internet databases. These are like large collections of what's going on the net. Okay, so these are, for example, DNS registration records. Every time you register a domain name, you want your system to be accessible by normal people who do not write down IP addresses normally. Okay, so you register a domain name and you put some private information there, including your administrative and managerial contact. So people who think that someone abuses your website can contact you and tell you that something goes wrong. There are ways to masquerade that, but most of the companies do not bother, so they have some contacts in there already. It will give you an idea about what's going on in the company's infrastructure, for starters. Okay, there are internet archives. These are the guys who just take snapshots of different websites they think are interesting for our ancestors. Okay, so they just archive it and it's available, and if someone suddenly removes a PDF document from their website, you can go back in time and retrieve this document from Internet Archive. Archive.org is a good example of that. There are specialized search engines. Let's name a few. So one of the most famous is Shodan, of course, Shodan HQ. You can Google it. It's basically the idea is to scan all IPv4 address space and to see what is there, right? Just to visit popular service ports and dump banners and store this somewhere for the general public to search. There is an API. If you pay a few bucks, you can automate that. So that's very interesting. You should play around it. So the second one is Census. I will give you links in the end of this presentation, I guess. But Census is very interesting because it actually made information about the websites masked by Cloudflare or other means of anonymization and attack protection visible to anyone, to the public, for the first time. As far as I can remember, they were the most popular basically for that reason. So what is it? It's also scanning everything and then grouping it by some qualities. For example, if you see that there is a website on Amazon that is accessible by an IP address and it has a certain SSL certificate, you will group it by the same certificate present at a Cloudflare protected website, for example, right? And when you go into the search window and just type a website name, you will receive both. So that's really interesting. It can be outdated, but it gives you an idea about the scope, who manages it, how frequently it is changed, and so on. And there are web service APIs for all this, right? So there are frameworks, there are standalone tools that use programmable APIs to retrieve all this information in large amounts absolutely automatically. For example, this recon NG framework, it's very useful mostly because it is the framework, right? You can use it as a Metasploit. So the paradigm is pretty much the same. You can load different modules, they connect different services, and they give you different information. But we will discuss it in more detail a bit later. So what are the tools of automation and the methods of achieving this level of automation? So for passive recon, we basically use open information. So we start with Google, Bing, Yahoo, or some local national search engines that are popular in this specific area. We of course go to LinkedIn, because in corporate world everyone has an account and everything is linked with one another. So if you know that The personnel in the company is relatively young, so they are into this culture of social networking. You can expect them to be massively registered in LinkedIn, right? Facebook is of the same importance, I guess, or even of more importance, but it's more private. Okay, so you would have to put some effort into digging business information from Facebook. But still, there are APIs, there is this friend search functionality, not many are aware of, by the way, that you can use in order to basically find anyone who have put the name of a certain company into their work history in Facebook. So in the main search window, you might not be able to find them, but if you find friends who are not friends, but possible suggestions of friends Facebook gives you, you might be able to find them. Twitter and Instagram are not that much useful, but still they give you an idea about what people are, what they do, what are their interests, and most importantly, what is their geolocation. Okay, so Twitter and Instagram have a lot of geolocation in them, and there are tools. For example, there is this tool. Its name is Creepy. Literally, it's creepy, like .py, and it digs the records in Twitter and Instagram based on the handle you give them, and they give you the history of geolocation. As represented as these dots on the Google map, so it's cool. Of course, there is archive.org. You can search for any website or any search term, and there are these two wonderful things, Maltigo and recon, and we will stay with them for some more time. So, what is Maltigo? We will have this little presentation, and I will walk you through the use of these tools during the reconnaissance phase. But for now, you have to know that Maltigo is a graphical user interface for transforming different types of data. So, what is transforming? Everything is transforms in Maltigo. You put in some data and you transform it into some other data. For example, you put in a website and you transform it to a domain name. You take this domain name and you transform it to MX records in the DNS, or NS records in the DNS, or IP address, or popular subdomains in this domain. And then you take this all and transform it to IP addresses, and then IP addresses fall down into some networks, and networks are the part of different autonomous systems. Autonomous systems have numbers and owners, and in this way you basically validate the scope that all subdomains of this domain are in these networks, and networks belong to a specific client. So this is like something you can do, and it's easily automated, and it is represented in the form of a nice graph. You can take screenshots and put into your report. It looks incredible. What is recon? If Maltigo is graphs, and understanding this, you can imagine that Maltigo is not very effective on large scopes. Okay, so if it's a small company, if it's a bank, for example, a local bank in a certain country, you still can use Maltigo. If it's something multinational, it has a lot of different networks and different websites, you will have to use something more relational, right? Something using tables, and that's where recon goes in. It's as I said, if you are familiar with the Metasploit framework, you can use it the same way. So you load different modules from different areas, from different categories, and you transform hosts to IP addresses and vice versa, and networks to hosts, and domains to subdomains, and you have different transformational what it's called there, plugins, I guess. No, modules. You have different modules to do that. So for larger scope, especially when we are dealing with full scope pen tests or full scope bug bounty programs, recon is key here. So it works really well.